Two Jeffs shaking hands. The red shirt, Jeff Bellinger of Columbia, South Carolina, a graduate of the University of South Carolina, and here getting really a first-time look at a 24-year-old graduate of Purdue University, where he majored in mechanical engineering. Jeff Miller, first shot. Put the right calculus on that shot. Jeff Miller opens with a resounding strike. And let's see what 34-year-old Jeff Bellinger, one title, that was in the 1986 Buffalo Open. A lot of pressure on the five finalists always. And it just didn't come up. In fact, Bowie told me just before we went on the air he was going to change his strike ball, one that did a more direct approach to the pocket.
Well, I think so far it looks like a mistake, Chris, to change it. As you see his profile, a very powerfully built man, short backswing, rolls that wrist behind the ball, sends that one wide, leaves the 1-2-8-10 washout.
Circling around the 10 pin, and for Jeff Bellinger, that is an open frame. He has quite a routine he goes through before he takes that resin bag, as you look now at a replay.
Chris, he gets the ball left the head pin where he should be, and then he drives the head pin right past the 10. Tough break for Bellinger in the first frame.
Gets it. He has hurried his routine a little bit more than usual with the resin bag on the thumb hole and then back on the towel. He's speeding it up here. We hope he doesn't speed it up too much, Nelson. It could affect his overall game.
That's for sure. He was very diligent in his pre-shot preparation last night as he made a charge to the top five. Today's a little bit quicker, as you said. Now here's the Boilermaker up here on the right-hand lane, straight working.
And he has left only the two, luckily, for the young man who has a most unusual step approach on the approach itself, Nelson. It's different.
Short, concise, or tight approach, five-step delivery, kind of stutter step in the first two steps, and really a short backswing. I think probably the shortest we have in professional bowling. He hits that line so solid. He accelerates on that pivot step. The four-step drives through very hard, and he makes it work.
And blows the shot, leaving the two pin. So now both players with open frames. For Miller in his second, for Bellinger in his very first, following it with a strike.
Jeff has to be somewhat upset at that shot. Just a little pre-shot nerves as he wasn't even close. He's trying to go somewhere around the second arrow and then just have the ball hook across the center of the lane, and he just throws it way too hard. It hangs out to the right, slides by the two pin, and let's see if he can recover from that. Sometimes it's really disturbing in the early going.
Hit into his left, the 3-6 on the left lane. Young man that was on the Purdue University bowling team 2 years. They haven't had high national ranking, but he has done something that the Purdue basketball team couldn't do. They tried to get to the Final Four. They didn't, but Jeff Miller has gotten into the Final Five.
As you look at his grip, good point, Chris. It's really, the first couple of frames are difficult. This young man uses his head out there, and he'll recover.
A lot of speed. Marking with a spare in the third frame, and Bellinger is up, leads by 1 pin. Good study of Miller's face, pondering, wondering what happened. Well, he's handling it well. Now here's the routine. Careful setting. Bellinger, who's been in the finals 2 of the last 3 years here. We asked him earlier why he does so well at red carpet.
Well, I feel this particular bowling center, the carry here has a lot to do with the way you roll the ball. There are a lot of guys that have problems carrying the 10 pins and especially the 4 pins here. And I feel like my particular roll with the ball speed that I have, I tend to carry well. And hopefully on the show today, I won't leave any 8 pins like I did against Roth. And I possibly carry a few 10 pins like I didn't carry against Voss. And hopefully I'll win my first game and go on to win the tournament.
And he's speaking of his 2 previous appearances in the championship round on this exact pair, 63 and 64 at Red Carpet Lanes, where he went down to defeat to those 2 players, Voss and Roth. Chance for a double.
I hit in another split, the 4-6-7 for Bellinger, who had an open frame in the very first of our first match.
Quickly up, he's just going for 2 pins.
All right. Jeff Bellinger going against Jeff Miller. More after this. Composite average on this pair.
Something to look for, Chris, 63 and 64 is the oil pattern is simply this. The oil is real heavy down to a point of about 20 feet. And it's a little bit lighter down here to about 45 feet and then dry in this area. But one thing to watch for is the scoring was abnormally low when the lanes were very slick. And right now they're very slick, so it's going to be tough match game play in the early going. And as the lanes start hooking a little later on in the championship round, I think the scores will really pick up.
Beautiful breaking ball for Jeff Miller, who is from Columbus, Ohio. His parents are here in person watching him, Linda and Jerry Miller. His sister was going to come, but she couldn't, as was his grandmother, Olive, who's a 76-year-old bowler in Columbus, Ohio.
That's a good point, Chris. They came up here. It's not that far a drive. In fact, in the fog up here, it's probably the only way you can get here is the Mitchell Field Airport was closed most of the day. Now, Jeff Miller recovering after that little respite we had in the commercial. It was his time out. Let's see if he can extend his lead to 14.
Crossing over, and he's left with the 3-10 on the left lane. There, Mom and Dad, Linda and Jerry.
And Jerry shaking his head as everybody seems to be struggling on both lanes. And what he has to do is get the ball over here right next to the 3-pin and have the ball deflect into the 10. We call that the baby split. Pros should make that at least 1 out of every 2 times. Needs this to maintain the lead.
3rd generation of Miller bowlers in Columbus. Nope, 2nd open frame. Lead he had is lost. It's an 8-pin lead for Bellinger, who will try to come back after an open frame.
Once again, the championship pair, I showed you the oil pattern, but the grain of the wood comes through on this pair. In the right-hand lane, 64 hooks 3 boards less than 63 for the right-handed players. Our tournament leader, Steve Cook, has them the other way around. So the grain of the wood is very important. Let's see what Bellinger does.
Oh, nice action. Strike in the 5th for Jeff Bellinger, an accountant major at the University of South Carolina.
The serpentine footwork of Bellinger as he steps across just like a speed skater going around a turn, that overstep, that he pivots step, and then the pro move at the bottom with that wrist. He lost that ball about 7 feet over the foul line. The first row of dots is 7 feet, and that's really one of the reasons he has so much success in this house. A little bit of extra loft does very well in this bowling center.
The screws with that double here in our very first match. The winner to meet Bob Benoit.
Capacity crowd here at Red Carpet Lane, 72 Lane Center. It's what we call a back-to-back center. As you see the money leaders for 1988, Bob Benoit, who will be in the next match, leading the pack at $129,000 down to Amleto Monicelli at $43,000. Now Miller trailing by 18. Needs to get something going. 6 frame.
Robbed, leaving a solid 9.
Boy, it's a hit that seems to be almost commonplace, Chris. The powerful bowling balls the players use today. The ball hits the 1-3. It should hit the 5 and then deflect into the 9. Not to be. It just hooks right through. Now, normal, as we call it, pin action, that ball should respect the weight of those 3-pound, 7-ounce pins. It does not. The ball is just too strong for the pin action.
Good. He made sure all of the ball on that lone pin. Earlier, we asked him why he chose the Professional Bowlers Tour over mechanical engineering.
Well, when I graduated in December, off time of the year. And job market was kind of slow, and circumstances just fell into place that I was able to try the tour out. And
Chris, I had somewhat the same situation. I started the tour in 1965, and when ABC's putting up a lot of that money and the tour is very rich at this time, it's a good time to start.
And it's a great time to start for Jeff Miller striking, because he's behind by 18 pins today. Will be the return of my colleague and close friend Alex Walu, who has been battling a dreaded disease, and he has whipped it, and he's back on the air today.
Come on, Jeff, one time!
Just like that. 3 in a row now, and a 28-pin lead.
Bellinger, just a determined 34-year-old, has paid his dues out here on the professional tour, has won victory to his credit. He's the roommate of Tom Milton, who won earlier in Florida this year, and Tom Milton was rooting for him last night. As you see the low angle trajectory of Jeff Bellinger's ball. Ball hits the 1, 3, 5, and deflects into the 9 pin. Now 28-pin lead, 3 strikes in a row. 8th frame can extend to 38.
No ball, don't do it!
Oh, begging the ball to do what it did. 4 in a row for this 215-pounder from Columbia, South Carolina.
What he was begging was, don't go high, don't go high. Jeff pulled the ball a little bit at the release point, but that tremendous loft that he had about 7 feet over the foul line let the ball, what we call, hold back. It made the difference between maybe a 4-pin and a strike, and has really put Jeff Miller in a lot of trouble. Jeff has to throw some strikes right here.
That gives him a double. Strikes in the 7th and 8th. Now he can cut it to 18 with a strike on the left lane where he's had problems.
Jeff Miller, only the second Rabbit player, or Pro Tour qualifier player that bowls on Monday to qualify for the regular tournament to make it to the championship round. He led the Rabbit squad on Monday, and here he is bowling in the first match. The other player to do that was Randy Peterson, the AC Delco 1986. He went on to win the tournament. Must strike for Jeff Miller.
And a 10-pin on that pesky left lane for Miller of Columbus, Ohio.
Jeff rolls the big hook ball for his strike ball as he looks a little bit down, a little disconsolate at his situation right now. The best he can do is 195. Jeff Bellinger going at a strong 214 pace. So, barring a miracle, Bellinger will go on to meet Bob Benoit.
But Jeff Miller will be back. Takes a while for maturity on the tour, any sport.
Well, I agree with that, Chris. You know, really, it's the first 3 frames before we had a commercial break that were the undoing of Miller. Once we had a little time out there, he has been real strong with every shot he's rolled in the last 5 frames. So I'm sure he'll analyze what happened here today and make that work to his advantage next time.
Left only the 5-pin, and Jeff Bellinger is one of those that says he talks to other people, but it's really talking to himself. Loud enough, though, that we often can hear what he has to say. There he was with the resin bag over the thumb hole and patting it and wiping it off, and now ready. .73 through the 8th for Bellinger. Spare up.
Jeff, who used to be always a great strike bowler, used to be an erratic spare shooter, has made some major changes that are good for anyone who throws the big, powerful hook to make. And that's simply break that wrist back, roll the ball end over end, a little bit like we show you in the grip tip. how to change your shot from the big crank ball today to the straight shot, and it's made him a better player.
So with a 4.67, certainly coming at the right time for the winner, Bellinger. So he will move on against the 300 shooter.